Imagine waking up one day and realizing your morning coffee helped build empires, funded slavery, and helped start a revolution. And now it's quietly running a $400+ billion global industry that 100+ million people depend on, all from one little bean that probably started as a snack for goats in East Africa. Today we're telling the complete money story of coffee, how a wild plant in Ethiopia turned into the fuel of sultans, smugglers, slave owners, and Starbucks drinkers. And at the end, I'll give you one simple move to make your coffee habit work for your wallet, not against it. Hey, it's Sketch Figures. Finance. Sketch simply. This time with caffeine. If you like big money stories told in plain English, hit like and subscribe so YouTube knows to keep sending you these. And stick around to the end. I'll share one super easy coffee audit that doesn't involve giving up your favorite drink. Let's start where the legends begin. Hyper goats and sleepy monks. You've probably heard the story. An Ethiopian goat herd named Kaldi notices his goats dancing after eating some mysterious red berries. He tries them, gets wired, shows the monks, and boom, coffee. But was that real? Modern historians say the Kaldi story doesn't show up in writing until the 1600s, centuries after it supposedly happened, so it's likely a myth. Here's what the evidence actually suggests. Wild coffee plants originate in Ethiopia. The drink as we know it probably starts in Yemen, where Sufi monks roast and brew beans to stay awake during long night prayers in the 1400s. From Yemen, coffee spreads to Mecca, Cairo, and then Istanbul by the 1500s via trade routes across the Red Sea. So the real discovery isn't one guy, it's a slow shift. People go from chewing fruit to roasting beans to brewing a drink that lets them squeeze more productive hours out of the night. Think of coffee like the 15th century version of night shift mode. Sufi communities were literally using it as an early productivity tool. Keep praying, keep studying, don't fall asleep. We can't put exact dates on when someone first drank real coffee. Records from that era are patchy, and a lot of early stories get romanticized later. What we do know is that by the late 1400s, coffee drinking is firmly established in Yemen and spreading fast. Coffee doesn't start as a hipster drink, it starts as spiritual productivity tech. Today, your morning cup is basically the great-great-great-grandchild of a Sufi all-nighter. As coffee spreads, one empire sees a chance to turn this new night fuel into serious money. By the 1500s and 1600s, the Ottoman Empire controls key trade routes around the Red Sea and Eastern Mediterranean. If you want coffee in much of the Old World, you're dealing with their turf. A monopoly is when one player controls most of the supply of something. For coffee, that meant, coffee beans were grown primarily in Yemen. They left via ports like Mocha, tightly controlled by local and imperial authorities. The Ottomans taxed and regulated this trade, turning coffee into a big revenue source. Meanwhile, in cities like Istanbul, coffee houses explode in popularity. By the 1600s and 1700s, there are thousands of them, basically the social media of the early modern world. In Istanbul, coffee houses become the fourth place, not home, not work, not mosque, but a social hub where different classes mix, talk politics, and share news. Authorities even send spies to coffee houses to listen in on public opinion. This wasn't a perfect monopoly. Smuggling existed, and over time, European traders found ways to bypass Ottoman control. Still, for about 2 centuries, Yemen and the Ottoman networks dominated global coffee exports. The Ottomans turned coffee from a local drink into a taxed, regulated cash crop, a product grown for sale, not just for local use. Once that happens, other powers start thinking, how do we get in on this without paying the toll? Enter the Dutch, who look at this monopoly and think, what if we just stole the plant? By the 1600s, European powers are playing collect all the spices in Asia. The Dutch East India Company, VOC, is one of the biggest, and they don't love being dependent on Ottoman Yemeni coffee. The Yemeni trade tried to protect its advantage by banning the export of live coffee plants. If nobody can grow coffee elsewhere, everyone has to buy from you. Good plan, in theory. Dutch traders managed to get seedlings out of Yemen and transplant them to their colonies. Coffee gets planted in Java, in today's Indonesia. From there, Java coffee becomes a major export to Europe by the early 1700s, enough that the VOC can supply most of Europe's demand. Stories also credit a Sufi named Baba Budan with smuggling 7 beans from Yemen to India in the 1600s, another example of how risky but profitable it was to move this plant. This is economic warfare in plant form. Move the biology, move the profits. Think of it like a company that depends on one supplier for chips or batteries. If that supplier charges too much, eventually someone will secretly copy the tech and build their own factories. That's what the Dutch did, except with actual trees. Exact details of who smuggled what and when are partly legendary and come from later accounts. But the outcome is clear. By the 1700s, coffee cultivation has spread to Java, Ceylon, and other colonies, breaking Yemen's near monopoly. Once Europeans can grow coffee in their own colonies, coffee stops being an Ottoman Yemeni power move and becomes a global colonial commodity, which sets the stage for something darker: plantation slavery. If you're enjoying this tour of history but caffeinated, tap like and subscribe so more people find sketch figures. Okay, now we go into the heavy part. As European demand explodes in the 1700s and 1800s, coffee joins sugar, cotton, and tobacco as a brutal plantation crop in the Americas. That means big estates, export focus, and, for a long time, mass enslavement. Coffee plantations in places like Brazil, the Caribbean, and parts of Latin America relied heavily on enslaved Africans. Brazil alone imported around 1.7 million enslaved Africans between 1700 and 1800, and coffee's rise in the 1830s helped keep the slave trade going. Historians describe the 18th century coffee commodity chain as largely built on slave labor, from field to export. Coffee wasn't unique. It was part of a wider system where European consumers got cheap hot drinks and enslaved people paid in stolen lives and labor. Imagine your daily coffee bill being low because wages at the start of the chain are literally zero. That's basically how the numbers worked. Forced labor kept production costs down, so coffee could be sold cheaply in London, Paris, and Boston. The profit margin sat with plantation owners, merchants, and colonial powers. Not every coffee farm used enslaved labor, and systems changed over time. Indentured labor, coerced contracts, later wage labor. But in major producing regions like Brazil, slavery remained central to coffee into the 19th century, ending there only in 1888. Behind your romantic idea of old coffee houses is a harsh truth. Coffee's global expansion rode on the same exploitative systems as other colonial commodities. The cup on the table in Europe was connected to violence on another continent. And while all that's happening, something wild is brewing in North America. Tea goes in the harbor, and coffee becomes a statement. December 16, 1773. American colonists, angry at British tea policy, dumped 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor. That night becomes the Boston Tea Party. After the Tea Act and the Tea Party, drinking British tea starts to feel unpatriotic. Over the years of the American Revolution, tea consumption drops. Coffee rises as the politically clean drink. In simple terms, switching from tea to coffee becomes a small, everyday protest. I'm not funding the enemy with my breakfast. Imagine a friend suggests going for tea in 1775 Boston. You might be like, tea? Really? You Tory? Coffee houses become places where patriots debate, plan, and argue politics. Sort of like revolutionary Discord servers, just with worse Wi-Fi and more wooden chairs. It's not like tea vanished. Some people kept drinking it, and over time tea made a comeback. But symbolically, the revolution helped flip America into more of a coffee country than a tea one, a cultural pattern that lasted. Your choice of drink can be more than taste. It can signal identity and politics. In the Revolutionary era, ordering coffee was a small daily vote for independence. Fast forward to today. Coffee's no longer a rebel drink. It's a massive global system with farmers, futures traders, and your local barista all tied together. Today, coffee is one of the most traded commodities in the world. It may not be as big as oil, but it's up there in global trade volume and economic importance. Who depends on coffee now? Around 12.5 million farms, mostly smallholders, grow the world's coffee. Roughly 125 million people depend on the coffee sector for their livelihoods. Most growers are in lower-income countries. Most drinkers are in higher-income ones. On top of that, coffee prices are volatile. In recent years, extreme weather and market speculation have helped push Arabica prices sharply higher, with record rallies and concerns from roasters and traders about surviving the swings. So the same drink that smooths your morning can create very bumpy incomes for farmers and traders. Here's where your wallet comes in. Behavioral finance writers like Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money, and Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, Nudge, point out that small, repeated decisions, like a daily coffee, can quietly add up over years simply because we do them on autopilot. We don't feel the cost, we just feel the habit. Say you spend $3 a day on coffee out, that's about $90 a month, or approximately $1,000 a year. Over 10 years, even without investment returns, that's a decent emergency fund. But this isn't about never buy coffee. It's about deciding which coffees are worth it. The ones you love versus the ones you buy just because you're bored and walked past a kiosk. Coffee can also be a genuine joy, a social ritual, or even part of your workday sanity. Cutting every cup might optimize your finances, but wreck your happiness. The point isn't zero spending, it's conscious spending. Here's your one practical move that you can apply during your coffee adventures. For 1 week, track every coffee you buy. Where, why, and how much. Keep the ones that truly make your day better. Cut or downgrade the forgettable ones. Redirect the difference into something you actually care about. Savings, debt payoff, or a bigger goal. That's using coffee the way empires did, strategically. The history of coffee shows how one tiny bean reshaped empires, trade, and our daily habits. Quick rewind. Coffee rose from Ethiopian forests and Yemeni monasteries to Ottoman coffee houses and colonial plantations powered by monopolies and slave labor. It peaked as a political symbol in revolutionary America and a global commodity. Today it fuels a vast, unequal supply chain and our everyday routines. Today this means your mug is global. Every coffee links you to farmers, ports, traders, and markets around the world. So those price spikes aren't random. Small habits are big money. Even a cheap, daily coffee can turn into thousands over time, which you can manage with a simple 1-week coffee audit. History hides in routines. Next time you sip, you're tasting Sufi nights, Ottoman taxes, Dutch smugglers, plantations, and protest movements. So stay curious about the stories behind everyday stuff. If you enjoyed this caffeinated trip through history and money, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and share this video with that friend who can quit coffee anytime. And if you haven't already, check out our last Psychology of Money episode on loss aversion. Why losing $100 hurts twice as much as winning $100. And remember, this video is for education only and isn't financial advice.